It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when my life changed forever. At 72, I was used to the calm rhythm of my home in a small midwestern town, where time seemed to move a little slower. Golden autumn leaves danced across the backyard while I prepared my 3 o'clock tea, as I had for decades. The doorbell shattered that peaceful hush I had come to cherish. I wasn't expecting anyone, and my children always called before dropping by. I walked to the door with hesitant steps, wondering who it could be. My hands trembled slightly as I turned the knob, never imagining that on the other side stood someone I hadn't seen in over 40 years. When I opened the door, it felt as if time stopped altogether. There he was, white hair, a face lined by a lifetime of stories, and still those blue eyes I once knew by heart. My pulse raced, and for a moment I was a 30-year-old again, in love and full of plans. "Helen," he said, my name the way only he ever could. His voice was deeper now, worn in places by the years, yet it carried that same tenderness that always softened me from the inside out. I stood frozen, unable to believe my own eyes, asking myself whether this was a dream or some cruel trick of fate. Then something even more astonishing happened. He began to hum, softly, almost a whisper, and I recognized it instantly. Our song, the one we used to dance to in my parents' living room when we were young and believed love would last forever. How could he still remember every note, every word that once meant everything to the two of us? That melody at my front door unearthed memories I had buried deep for decades. "You still remember," I murmured, my voice catching as tears formed. He smiled in that shy way that once won me over when we were just two kids discovering love in simpler times. "How could I forget our song?" he replied. And suddenly, I was back in the early 80s. I could see that small living room in my parents' house where every Sunday after lunch we would dance to the crackle of an old radio. We were so happy then, so innocent, overflowing with plans for a future we thought we would build hand in hand. The melody floated between us, and I remembered how we would hum it while we walked through town, fingers intertwined. He always tried to improvise harmonies, and I laughed when he missed the high notes. Those were simple moments, but they held a purity and intensity that branded my young soul forever. Back then, we believed our love was indestructible, able to withstand any obstacle life placed in our path. We made eternal promises beneath the mulberry tree in my parents' yard, vowing never to part, that our song would be our soundtrack for all time. We were naive, and in that innocence, oddly wise. But life had other plans. Family pressure, jobs in different cities, and most of all, the proud stubbornness of youth built a wall between our hearts. What seemed eternal slipped away like sand through open fingers, leaving only the memory of that song as the silent witness to the love we once lived. The separation came gradually, like a record turning down its volume until it disappears into quiet. First, the missed chances, conversations that no longer flowed, smiles that felt a little forced. Then came disagreements about the future, dreams that were drifting in different directions, choices that seemed impossible to reconcile. I remember the last time we danced to our song. It was a rainy night. We both knew it was a farewell, though neither of us had the courage to say the word. We danced in silence, tears slipping down our faces, feeling something precious slipping away, something we feared we would never get back. He left for Chicago to pursue better opportunities in civil engineering, while I stayed in Willow Creek, Ohio to care for my ailing mother. We promised to write, to call, to keep in touch, but distance and new routines carved out wider and wider gaps. Letters grew infrequent, phone calls became rare, and one day, we simply stopped. For years, whenever I heard our song on the radio, my chest tightened with longing and a pain I could never fully explain. I tried to erase that melody from my life, switching stations as soon as the first notes began. It never worked. The song was etched into my soul in a way that felt permanent and inevitable. Back then, I built a new life. I married a good man, had wonderful children, and created a steady, happy home. But there was always a small, secret corner of my heart where I kept the memory of my first love, of that song that could still make me cry when no one was watching. I never imagined he would come back one day and awaken it all again. While I built my life in our hometown, he made a life hundreds of miles away. For over 4 decades, we lived in parallel, unaware of one another, not knowing how the paths we chose had shaped us. Each of us followed our fate, fought our battles, celebrated victories, and cried through losses. Alone, at least where we were concerned. Later I learned that he had married, had children, and built a strong career as a civil engineer in Chicago. Decades designing bridges and buildings, creating structures that connected people and places, perhaps as a quiet way to mend the first broken connection of his life. His wife passed away 5 years ago, leaving him alone in an apartment that felt too large for one man. I lost my husband 3 years ago after his brave fight with cancer. He was a wonderful person who loved me deeply and gave me extraordinary children. But I always knew there was a song inside me he could never quite awaken. It never diminished what we shared. It only made it different, steadier, built on companionship and trust rather than that consuming fire of youth. Across the years, we both carried that secret melody. He told me later he changed the station too, whenever it came on, feeling the same tightness in his chest as memories of those Sunday afternoons came rushing back. We were 2 old people guarding the same treasure, not knowing the other was doing exactly the same. Life taught us that love wears many faces, each with its own beauty and worth. Young love burns like fire, intense, transformative. Mature love warms like embers, steady, comforting. But there is something magical about finding that first flame again after so long, when you thought it had gone out forever. Standing in the doorway with him humming our song, I felt as if 4 decades dissolved like morning mist. My mind flooded with memories I had taught myself to keep locked away. It was as if each note were a key, opening secret compartments of my heart where I stored our most precious moments. I remembered our secret meetings in the town park when we snuck away to whisper about dreams and futures. He always brought wildflowers he picked along the path, and I pressed them inside my Bible. We talked for hours about everything and nothing, discovering in every word a closeness that felt beyond any rational explanation. Our first kisses came rushing back with a force that startled me. I could feel the texture of his young skin, the scent of his hair, the way my heart galloped every time he came near. We were so pure in that love, so true in every gesture, every glance, every whispered promise on those golden afternoons of our lost youth. I also felt the pain of the separation, the sleepless nights, the hollow days learning to live without the rhythm our song gave my life. It was like reliving that entire roller coaster in a handful of seconds, standing there in my doorway at 72. "May I come in?" he asked, his voice hesitant, as if he too were fighting a storm of emotions that threatened to pull down the scaffolding he had built over 4 long decades. Those blue eyes, now circled with lines that spoke of laughter and tears, still shone with the same light that charmed me when we were young and unguarded. I opened the door fully and invited him inside, my legs trembling. It felt unreal to have this man, who existed for so long only in my most secret memories, walking through my living room, studying the photographs of my children and grandchildren on the walls. He stopped at each one, curiosity flickering with a hint of wistfulness. I offered him coffee, an excuse to collect myself in the kitchen. My hands shook as I prepared it, and in the window's reflection, I found myself fixing my hair the way I used to when I wanted to impress him. It amazed me how certain reflexes sleep for decades and then wake in an instant in the presence of the person who created them. When I returned, he was on the couch, gently turning the pages of a photo album I'd left on the coffee table. "You have a beautiful family," he said with sincere warmth. There was no bitterness in his voice, only a tender kind of joy to see that I'd been happy. Those words touched me deeply. They showed the emotional grace the years had given us. I sat beside him, keeping a respectful distance, close enough to feel his familiar presence. The silence that settled wasn't awkward. It was dense with meaning, rich with 40 years lived apart, yet connected by threads time never managed to sever. We both knew there was so much to say. Where do you begin a conversation that paused a lifetime ago? Helen, he began, setting his cup down with care, not a day has gone by in all these years that I haven't thought of you. The words fell over me like rain on dry ground, waking feelings I had trained myself to keep asleep. I looked into his eyes and saw the same honesty that had won me over, now tempered by the wisdom only age bestows. Me too, I whispered, tears rising. I always wondered how you were, if you were happy, if you ever thought of me. We spoke of the turns our lives had taken, of moments we almost reached out, of times our fingers hovered over the phone without finding the courage to dial. He told me about his career, the projects that sent him all over the country, and how in every new city he unconsciously searched for women who reminded him of me. He spoke of his wife with respect and affection, making it clear theirs had been a good marriage, while admitting there was always a song in his heart that only I knew the words to. I shared my own stories, my family, the years caring for my mother until she passed, the rich, meaningful life I carved out while still carrying that quiet longing. I told him about my husband, how he knew there had been a great love in my past and never showed jealousy, only generous understanding. Do you know why I came? He asked after hours of talking, when the sun was low and the room glowed with evening gold. My daughter was sorting my old things and found some letters from you, those first months after we drifted apart. When I read them again, I knew I had to see you, even if it was only to hum our song one last time. You kept the letters? I asked, hardly daring to believe he had saved my words all these years. He nodded and pulled from his jacket a time-worn envelope, my younger handwriting still visible on the front. Seeing it felt like looking through a window at my former self. With shaking hands, I opened one and read aloud the voice of a 32-year-old woman, her hopes and fears, her dreams and disappointments. We were so intense, I said, smiling through tears that would not hold back. You wrote poetry in prose, he answered softly. I knew these by heart. For years, when I was lost or lonely, I'd read them and remember I had been loved in a way that was pure and true. His words made me realize we had both carried the weight and beauty of that love as a secret treasure across the decades. Suddenly he stood, offering me his hand with a shy smile that transported me back to our youth. Shall we dance to our song one more time? There was no music playing, but that didn't matter. Our melody lived inside us. I rose and took his hand, feeling strangely young, despite the white hair and the lines the mirror shows each morning. He began to hum, and I joined him, our voices blending into an imperfect harmony that moved me to my core. We swayed slowly in my living room, two old souls rediscovering an intimacy time had lulled but never erased. We moved to a music only we could hear, a melody existing beyond time and place. His arms, more fragile now yet still protective, wrapped around me with the same tenderness as before. I heard the rhythm of his heart through his shirt, a beat I knew instantly from all the times I had rested against his chest when we were young. Sunset poured in through the windows, making everything feel cinematic. It was as if the universe conspired to give us this one gift, this second chance to live our song again. I closed my eyes and let myself feel every second, committing to memory each detail of this unlikely dance between two elders in love. You still dance beautifully, he whispered, and his roughened voice sent a ripple of warmth through me. You always knew how to make me feel special, I answered, resting my head on his shoulder. We stayed like that a long while, gently moving, two shipwrecked travelers who had finally found safe harbor after crossing oceans of longing alone. When the imagined music ended, we remained in each other's arms, reluctant to break the moment. I felt his tears in my hair, and mine traced their way down my face, not tears of sorrow, but of gratitude for this improbable reunion, this quiet healing. Thank you, I murmured against his chest, unsure exactly what I was thanking him for. Perhaps for keeping my letters, for remembering our song, for finding the courage to knock on my door. Or perhaps I was thanking fate for letting us reconcile with our past, for the chance to mend old wounds we didn't realize were still open. When we finally pulled apart, he cupped my face in his weathered hands so gently it made me tremble. "There's something I have to tell you," he said. "All these years, in every structure I designed, every bridge I helped build, I kept thinking about connection because I couldn't keep ours. Each project felt like a small way to repair the first bond I let break." His words lit something inside me, and I became a teacher because I wanted to plant seeds of kindness and knowledge in children's hearts. Maybe to make up for the dreams we left behind, I confessed. We spent a lifetime trying to rebuild what we lost, not realizing real love never truly dies. It simply sleeps, waiting for the right moment to wake. We sat again, closer now, no longer separated by the weight of decades. He showed me photos of his children and grandchildren, and I shared my own stories. It was comforting to discover that both of us had built loving families, that we had found ways to be happy even while carrying that quiet ache. Our children never knew, but they grew up hearing echoes of our song in our melancholy smiles. "Do you think it's too late for us?" he asked, a vulnerability in his voice that nearly broke me. I looked at this white-haired man, at the lines that told of a fully lived life, and felt the time between us as a long detour to our real destination. "Maybe it isn't about late or early," I said. "Maybe it's about finally being ready." Night had fallen while we talked, the house bathed in moonlight. We were suspended outside the clock, two elders who had found their way back to each other through a melody that survived over 4 decades of silence. For the first time in years, I felt complete, as if a missing piece had finally slipped into place. "Do you forgive me for leaving?" he asked, with disarming simplicity. I looked into those blue eyes, now framed by lines carved by regret and longing, and knew he had needed that question for a very long time. "I forgave you the moment you walked out," I told him truthfully. "And most of all, I learned to forgive myself for not fighting harder," I added. "We were too young to understand that real love is worth any sacrifice, any change of plans. We were big children playing at being adults, not yet knowing how to balance our dreams with shared ones." He nodded, and I watched relief wash over him like a wave. We spoke of all the what-ifs that haunted us. What if he hadn't gone to Chicago? What if I had gone with him? What if we had fought harder against outside pressure? In the end, we agreed we might have needed those separate years to become the people capable of cherishing this reunion with the gentleness only time can teach. "Do you know what I finally learned?" he said, threading his fingers through mine. "Love isn't only about staying. Sometimes it's about loving someone enough to let them go, even when it breaks your heart, and trusting that if it's true, it will find its way back." His words rang inside me like a quiet revelation. We realized we had loved others, truly, during these 4 decades, but always kept a small corner of the heart for that first great love. It wasn't betrayal or lack of commitment. It was simply human nature to hold a unique space for a unique person. Our spouses had been loved completely in their own seasons, but the space we saved for each other was singular, and always would be. "What do we do now?" I asked, a mixture of hope and uncertainty. We were 2 elders with complete lives, grown children, grandchildren to dote on, routines built over years. And we were 2 souls who had found their lost harmony, 2 people whose hearts still raced for one another despite the years. "I don't know if we have another 40 years, he said with a small, hopeful smile, "but we have today. We have this song that never truly died. Maybe we just enjoy each moment given to us, no pressure, no rush, and see where this new melody leads." That felt exactly right. We decided we didn't need labels or grand plans. We were old enough to know that the loveliest parts of life are often the small moments shared with someone who truly understands you. We agreed to meet regularly, to pick up those long conversations from our youth, to make new memories without trying to recreate the past. "Can I call you tomorrow?" he asked as the night grew late. "Please," I said. There was no fear in my voice now, no hesitation. We were no longer the impulsive young pair who fell apart. We were two seasoned people ready to build something new and beautiful on the foundation of a love that had never really died. As he rose to go, he hummed our song once more, and this time I joined without a second thought. Our harmony had changed, more mature, weathered by living, but it was unmistakably ours. It felt as though the music had grown up with us, layered with meanings only time can add to a truly special melody. At the door, he embraced me, and I knew it wasn't a goodbye, but a beginning. "Thank you for opening the door," he whispered, and I laughed softly because we both knew he wasn't talking only about the door to my house. We had opened our hearts again, giving a second chance to a love that had waited patiently for over 4 decades. After he left, I stood on the porch watching his car fade into the quiet night. Our song still played in my chest, but now it sounded differently, not heavy with regret and longing, but bright with possibility and hope. At 72, I was learning that it is never too late to begin again when it comes to true love. In the days that followed, our phone calls slipped back into an easy rhythm, as if we had never stopped talking. We discovered we still loved the same kinds of books, films, and music, and that we both enjoyed gardening and slow walks. It felt comforting to realize that even after separate lives, we remained deeply compatible, like two puzzle pieces always meant to fit. We began seeing each other regularly. Long breakfasts, walks in the old park where we once met, afternoons filled with quiet laughter, music, and shared memories. Our children were surprised at first, but soon they recognized the gentle happiness shining in our eyes and gave us their full support. Love, we learned, can bloom at any age when it is genuine and patient. And if you too carry a special song in your heart from an old love, remember, it's never too late to let it play again. Second chances don't exist only in movies. They live in real people, brave enough to open their doors when the past returns, transformed into the present. If this story touched your heart, leave a like to help more people find it. Subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt stories like this one. And don't miss our next video, another journey through time, memory, and the kind of love that never truly fades.